everyone. This is Arjorie, your host for Why We Do the Work. And this is a podcast focusing on cancer, industrial pollution, and how it can impact your lives. We talk quite a bit about childhood cancer as well. And this particular episode is pretty cancer heavy. And if that triggers you, please take care of yourself. From the jump, I want to give a huge shout out to Beyond Toxics for sponsoring this podcast. I couldn't do this without you. And Crystal, my podcast partner, who makes all the magic happen on the show. You can also find out about all the awesome work that our team is doing at beyondtoxics.org. Also, if you ever have any questions for me or just want to reach out and say, hey, and that you enjoy the show, I can be found at aab@beyondtoxics.org. And I'd be super jazzed to hear from you all. So today I have my best friend on the show. Last season, she was here for the first 3 episodes that started Why We Do the Work. And I'm so happy that she's here today to say,
Hey. Hi. This is Lori.
Hey, Lori. I'm so glad that you're back to hang out with me. I have you back. Last season, you and me talked about the devastating impacts cancer can have, not only on the person that's sick, but the family as well. We talked about kids a lot, of course, but we also delved into how we as mothers felt and how we handled the madness that is cancer. So today, we're going to touch on some residual, some sadness, some anxiety, friends, or lack thereof, family, etc. So I wanted to tell you this past Wednesday, not this one that just passed, but the Wednesday before that, was Zion's 2 years of cancer free.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
That's amazing.
It came by so fast, like it's like all of a sudden we had these sick kids, and then I'm getting a text from Zion saying, "Oh, it's my 2-year cancer free." And I felt guilty because I have it on my notes in my phone, but I wasn't thinking about it. And
that's such a great thing to hear from your kid too, because it's showing that she is also aware of the fact that, this is the 2-year mark. She's made it. Another 2 years without cancer. That's fantastic.
It's fantastic. It's scary, because there's always that looming in the background, all these things that they told us when our kids started first going through treatment. They're going to have this and it could come back, and it could later be breast cancer. It could later be prostate cancer because of the radiation and all these things that, it can be. We try to not think about those things,
Right.
And we try to think about the good that has happened. So over the course of time, things have gotten easier for Zion, mentally, emotionally, physically, socially. It took about a year of her living up here with us for her to actually really engage with kids and want to go out. She still gets like anxiety, but she goes out.
Well, and I'm seeing that she is expressing herself more than she ever has in her life. I've never seen her with so much self-expression and so much creativity. She's always been really kind of reserved, or maybe just didn't feel 100% comfortable like talking about herself. But I'm so happy to see that she is being able to grow beyond cancer and grow into a really, really beautiful young woman.
Yeah, she's doing awesome. Both of our kids are about to graduate from high school, and that's crazy to me. She's talking to me about college and do I want to go to OSU or do I want to go to U of O? Do I want to go to UW? Do I want to be studying aerospace? Do I want to study physics first? All these things. And I'm like, oh my God, weren't you just 12? Like, how are you already 18 talking to me about college?
Right. She has so much ahead of her. She has a lot of potential, and I'm so glad that she has all of those opportunities available to her, and that her health did not hold her back. And she's able to still have all of those opportunities available to her.
Yeah. It could have gone a completely different way. And unfortunately, that is something that we're having to deal with Simon right now. Simon is having a hard time getting back. Let's talk a little bit about Simon. Like, what's going on?
If you think about it, like, Zion was worse off It was really difficult for her and for you guys and for the doctors, for everybody to, continually not defeat cancer for as long as we did. And
Mhm.
finally, she had the resolution was in the stem cell. But before that, it was just, trying and trying again. And Simon's experience was not like that. Simon had a pretty textbook treatment plan. We did end up adding like an extra round of chemo,
Mhm.
which is like it ends up being about 2 or 3 months for,
Radiation happened.
and then radiation happened. It was always a an option. We knew that we might have to do it, but we did. So that, that drug it out a little bit, but nothing like what Zion went through.
Yeah,
Now,
but wait, let's not deflect from that. I know it's nothing like what Zion went through, but the impact and the devastation on him and us as his family was not any less just because Zion had to have a stem cell transplant. So I know you're not saying it's less, but I just want to make sure that the listeners know that just because he didn't end up having to have a stem cell transplant, there is residual there. There's mental impacts that happen, and it doesn't matter if you've had cancer for 3 months and you've done with your treatment, or you have to go through 3 years like Zion did. So I just want to make sure that the listeners know that just because their child didn't have to go through something so intense like what Zion did, we're still here to talk about it and still here to make that relevant.
well, and it is relative to that family too. So,
Hmm.
for instance, what Simon went through was going to affect us in some of the same ways and in different ways than what Zion went through. So those they're just, I mean, it's a different experience for every
Hmm.
person and every family.
Yeah.
However, we're now at a point that I would have imagined that we would be further along in the healing process and that he would be further away from cancer treatment.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously he's not in cancer treatment anymore, but I really wanted there to be a clear distinction between the time when he was actively fighting cancer
Mhm.
and then now recovering from it and being cancer free. Simon, in my opinion, has not bounced back. He is not the kid that he was. And I don't expect him to be exactly like he was. I know that this is going to be a different version and
Mhm.
older, more mature version of Simon. But what I'm referring to is his energy level and his motivation and his drive to be socially active and socially involved with his peers.
Mhm.
Something happened where he felt isolated, ostracized from his peers.
Mm.
And while they went on with, learning to drive and getting their licenses and having girlfriends and going to concerts, he did that a little bit, but he really, I think, feels like he missed that part of high school.
Yeah.
And so,
A pandemic was going on right
right, right,
then.
right. So I mean that's part of it. You take somebody who is already sort of isolated. I mean, he's an introvert. So you take that and then you add in a pandemic and you add in cancer, then you know that, he had every reason to stay home.
Oh, yeah.
But now we can't find a single reason that's good enough for him to get out.
Oh, jeez.
Every single time when we suggest to him, "Hey, you wanna go with us? We're going to go get something to eat in Portland," or "We're going to go do this." He just says, "That sounds like a lot of work." And when he does go with us, it's like one event during the day, and then that's it.
Is he having a good time when you guys are going out? Or is he being like, "Wish I would've just stayed at home?"
He doesn't complain. Simon's really a go with the flow person, but, to say that he seems like he's jovial, enjoying himself, I haven't
Mhm.
seen him like that in a year. At
Oh,
least a year.
God.
And I don't, he's taking medication for depression and he's taking medication for to help with insomnia. And I don't think it's particularly effective because I see him just not being motivated and being really depressed and staying at home all the time. He switched from going to school in person to wanting to do it all online because the anxiety was too great for him to get to school every day.
Mhm.
He's doing well. He's keeping up with the schoolwork, but
he's even more isolated now because he's not going to school.
Right, right. And for us, the decision came down to what is going to work because we don't want to end up being all the way up to graduation and then find out he doesn't have enough credits because he had
Mhm.
too much anxiety to get to school.
Right.
So the goal right now is really, and this does make me sad because Simon is extremely intelligent. He's always been a good student. And I had high hopes for him to be,
Mhm.
to be graduating from high school with some merits
Yeah.
and not just finishing online program to get your high school diploma. And unfortunately that's what's happening. But the other thing is that Simon admitted to me recently that he always thinks he has cancer. He still thinks he has cancer.
He's just going around thinking that.
Hmm.
Does he think it's the same cancer? Or does
He just doesn't feel like it's gone. And I told him, I said, "Simon, you do know that, like, Dr. Schliss has showed us your results. You do know that you don't have any cancer cells left. I mean, you're cancer free." He's like, "Yeah, I know that in my rational mind,
the
but
PTSD?
he said, I constantly just think it's the cancer. That's what is making me feel like this." And he thinks that when we go to get scans that he's going to find out that he has cancer again and that they are going to find.
That's so scary
It
that he's
is.
just walking around feeling like he has cancer,
Right.
and then he's already, like, locked up in his mind, not talking to friends and stuff, and now he's just going around with this looming cloud of, "Oh my god, I have cancer."
Right. And
That
he
makes me so sad.
Mhm. And then the difference is too that the rest of us, I mean, not to say this in a mean way, but the rest of us have gone on with our lives.
Right.
I went back to work. The kids are going to school. Nathan is social butterfly,
Yeah.
so he's doing the things that Simon didn't do during high school. And in all that commotion, here's Simon just in his room at his computer or playing his guitar.
Just isolated.
Hmm.
Zion has this whole thing going on where she has just turned 18. And right before she turned 18, she was already gearing up with senioritis and I'm about to be 18 and she was laying the foundation for being able to do whatever she wants,
Hmm.
right? So we can't keep her at home.
Right.
Like
That's awesome.
before it was like she just wanted to stay home. She's what I don't want to do this. I don't want to go out. I'm too scared. People everybody's looking at me. I don't want anybody to talk to me. To not being able to have her stay at home and to have her have this huge independence that I am happy that she has it, but I'm also struggling with it a little bit.
Just reel it in a little.
Yeah, because it's just, you're 18, but you're still in high school. You're still a child in my eyes.
Right.
Legally you're an adult. It's big time now if you get in trouble legally, yes, but she's just got this whole I'm 18 now kind of a thing. And we moved out of our houses young.
Mhm.
So, yes, she's 18 and I just feel weird. It makes me feel weird for her and she just seems like a different age that we were when we were 18.
Right. But Audrey, think about this. Think about how much Zion, besides that Zion's life already had the theme of doing what you're told and going by the rules and
Mhm.
being very, very specific to her being a child in a big family or a child in a family where these rules had to be maintained, and then to go from that to having cancer where she had her own set of rules that she had to also incorporate to her life.
Mhm.
Everything from what she could eat, what she couldn't eat, to how much sunlight she could get, or I
Or
mean
what
all these.
clothes felt right on her body.
Exactly. And all these little things. And so I think if you think about it like that, that's going to help shed some light on the rebellion that you see coming out.
It does, but and I understand she didn't have any choices. She didn't have any choices. So now legally she has choices and she's taken strides to have those. And it's I'm not trying to clip her wings or anything, but I mean they're different. So Simon isn't going out with any friends at all.
No,
He like what is he doing?
he does his online schoolwork, he games. His social life consists of probably 6 to 10 friends that he knows from school who he plays games with. And then, he plays on a laptop, or not on a laptop, on a desktop computer. He has all upgraded stuff for gaming. So he is like,
Into
he's a
it.
techie. Yeah, it's nerd squad stuff for sure. I mean, that's his deal. But that's fine. I'm okay with that. Within balance though, and I think what he's doing is that's his only like outlet. And
Mhm.
so since he doesn't have any stimulation from real life interactions, then he has replaced that with these virtual interactions, which, I hear him on the mic cussing and talking, laughing, which I'm glad to hear that because
It's the only time you
that's the
hear it.
only time I hear it. But he was at the beginning of the school year, he was asking to go to
That's what
concerts
I was gonna
and
ask. Do you think it's gotten like, since we last talked on the show, have things gotten worse?
yeah.
They've gotten worse since, like, our first episodes, we were talking about the show, and things seemed like things were going, we're talking about the kids and their siblings, and it seemed like things were going in a progressive manner, like a
Mhm.
positive manner. But now the conversations that we've been having about Simon in particular seem like there has been regression.
Well, and it's not just regression, but it's like holding still. I mean,
Mm,
it's really stagnant for
mhm.
him, to be in this mindset that he feels like he still has cancer and he doesn't feel comfortable going out in the community, doesn't want to go to school, doesn't want to go to concerts. This is a change for him. He was previously motivated by, his favorite music groups coming to town or
Didn't they go to, like did they go to a concert at the Moda Center that was, like, a big
yeah,
concert?
they went to see Tyler the Creator. That
Right,
was
right.
huge. That
And
was
during
huge.
that time, he was, air quotes, "okay." Like, he seemed like he was starting to get better at that time to me.
Actually, it was getting worse at that
Oh
time.
my god.
So that's when I started to notice more that, you know, for instance, it was a really stark contrast because he and Nathan went to see Tyler the Creator together.
Mhm.
And Nathan comes back just laughing and talking and, telling us all the songs that he sang, which ones he wanted to hear, which ones he played, and then talking about, he's dancing and these girls are dancing on him. He's 14,
Wait,
but
who was dancing on him? At the
like,
concert,
yeah,
girls were
yeah,
dancing on him?
yes.
At the
So,
Moda Center?
hmm
What?
yeah,
Everybody, the Moda Center is where the Portland Trailblazers play, is that right?
I think so.
I think that's where the Portland Trailblazers play, but there's also lots of concerts there. It's a big to-do.
It's a big, it's not even an auditorium.
It's an arena.
An arena,
Yeah.
exactly. So Moda Center's huge, and then Tyler the Creator did his concert the day after he won a Grammy. So like it was a supercharged concert
Yeah.
because he had just won this Grammy, and so he was definitely feeling himself. And I think they loved it. Simon loved it, but Simon did not come back with all of that like fun concert. I went to a concert. There were people there. Energy. He was just like, yeah, it was all right. I know he
Which
loved it,
which
but
normally, pre-Simon Cancer, that wouldn't have been unusual for him to just be like, "Yeah, it was great. I had a good time." But knowing now that he's, like, locked up in his mind thinking he still has cancer and all that, I don't know if
mhm,
he was thinking about it a bunch back then,
it seems like it.
but that's, like, alarming for him to come back from this huge arena, this huge concert, and little brother's all super excited about it, and he's just like, "Yeah, yeah, it was pretty good."
Yeah, I mean,
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it feels like he would have, in the past, been a little bit more excited about it.
Well, or just being excited about, I mean, for him, the thing is he's always looking at the next one. I mean, this is we've gone through now like 2 or 3 months where he hasn't gone to a concert, and that hasn't happened in a long time before this. He would be, working to get the money to go to concerts, and I mean, he knew when the next one was coming and when he
All
want,
that's gone.
and he's not even planning. He's not asking us for money for tickets. He's not even asking for money to upgrade his computer equipment, and I mean,
What are
the
we gonna do?
well, on Monday, we're going to see Simon's oncologist.
Right.
So, I'm hoping that she might have some insight for us. However, I'm a little bit, I don't know, apprehensive because the last few times that we've seen her, I've mentioned to her, hey, Simon's not bouncing back. He's depressed. He's having trouble sleeping at night. He's struggling with socializing. And she's kind of minimized it in a way because every time she just tells us like, "Oh yeah, that's really normal. It's really normal. Happens to a lot of kids." And I get this feeling that yes, it is normal. It was normal, but now it's not normal. And I want somebody to see that. I mean,
Mm.
I see it because I'm there and I know what Simon was like beforehand. He's not going to be the person he was when he was 15 because he's 17, almost 18 now.
Mhm.
I get that. I accept
He's
that.
not gonna be the same even without cancer.
Right. That's what I'm
That
saying.
yeah.
I accept that we're not looking for him to be somebody he was, you know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. But I want to see some of what he was. I want to see at least that brightness and that
Just
and
a little glimmer.
of being motivated and wanting to see something or do something and wanting to get out there, and wanting to put it together. He used to make plans with friends, and he has friends that live close by. He has friends that are long distance friends, but he hasn't made an effort to see or talk to anybody outside of gaming.
So hard because we wanna fix it. We wanna be able and we want on this podcast to be able to say, "This is how we were able to fix it."
Right.
But because and not fix it, make it better, livable. But because we don't know, we're stuck in this limbo with Simon, not knowing what to do about it. I'm hoping that some folks might reach out to us and say that that happened to me, and this is what we did. This is the strides that we took.
Right.
This is what worked, and this is what didn't work. So, I'm hoping that with this talk that we're having today, I'm hoping some folks might reach out and say this is what we did because like I want to be able to say, "Oh, it's gonna be okay, we're gonna get through this." But when something is happening to you, it's like it's happening to me. So we're not able to comfort each other
Right.
in a way that makes us feel like it's gonna be okay.
Because we're saying the same thing that we say to
Yeah.
yourself. But, in our previous podcasts, I feel like we had that insight to offer.
Mhm.
We, as we're just seeing our experiences together, you and me, we learned some things. We learned some things about what would work. We learned that our kids didn't want us to talk about it a lot. And so it really worked for us to talk about it with each other because we would just make them really mad
Mhm.
by bringing things up.
Still kinda.
Still kind of. Yeah, they don't want to talk about it much. But all that being said, we don't have that insight now. Well, I don't especially because I am just at this point of like, what do I do next? We're going to see Simon's oncologist, so hopefully she'll have something for us, some sort of insight.
I feel like Simon needs to tell her too.
He did. The last time we were there, I was really proud of him because it
Oh,
was the
good.
first time ever. Even he's been seeing her for however many years. And this was the first time that he spoke up and said, I'm not doing well. I need help.
Oh my gosh.
And it was hard. It was different for me to hear that. And I'm glad that he felt comfortable to say it in front of me. And then I was just quiet. I just let him speak. And he told her everything. He told her, I don't feel well when I wake up. I'm tired. If I do get a burst of energy and I go do something, go to the grocery store, go to Walmart with the parents or whatever, he's exhausted. I mean, it reminds me of how he was even before he started treatment when he was just getting really sick.
Mhm.
I'm sure you remember that after his first treatment, I kind of lost it because his eyelids turned a really dark color,
Yeah.
and his
Yeah.
eyelids are like that dark color again. So I don't know if that's from lack of sleep or I mean he is the weird thing is that he oversleeps and
Yeah,
then
you've sent me some pictures where he looks like he's sleeping in the middle of the night, and it's not the middle of the night.
so he'll sleep sometimes like 16 hours in a day.
Sorry, Simon, we take pictures of, you kids when you're sleeping. Sorry about that.
I told him. I told him, I said, I sent, because you were waiting for a picture from us.
Yeah.
And I told him that I took a picture of him sleeping to show you, like, look, this is like real time. This is what's happening right now. This is why we're not posing for a picture.
Thank you for posing for that picture, by the way. Even though your mom didn't like it. It was the
I
best
don't
one.
I'm really doubtful of those pictures now. I don't know what to say about that.
Because listen, I'm not trying to make you feel bad what those pictures look, but those pictures did not look like you. But it's what I had. Folks,
Did
she had to send me some pictures for this presentation that I was doing with Lisa. And you met her before in the first episode, executive director of Beyond Toxics. I did a presentation with her about JH Baxter, about our kids, about pollution, about cancer, and I wanted there to be a photo. And so I asked you to send these photos, which I was so happy that you did, but it didn't even look like you at all.
Well, check it out. It's because I work nights. Yeah, that really, truly, that is. I mean,
I'm sorry,
sure.
I'm laughing.
No, I mean, I'm sure I probably look like that now because I
You
work
don't.
nights. Well, I slept last night, so
You don't look
that's
like that.
different. But yeah, no, I feel like I do because I see myself. I wasn't like that before in life, but I work nights, so my eyes look like old and tired.
That's okay. I got off track. So Simon sleeping too much.
He sleeps too much, and then he goes through these periods of insomnia. Like literally, everybody in the house is asleep. He's following his guide about what you should do. No screen time. Put your phone on the charger. Make your room dark to be able to rest well and to be able to get to sleep. He's doing those things, but it doesn't help. He just lays there and just thinks and thinks and thinks and thinks and can't go to sleep. So,
And he's thinking about having cancer
well, I
or
don't know what
whatever else.
tells me what he's thinking about, but I imagine that if he said he still thinks he has cancer, he probably does worry about that a lot. He probably is laying there worrying about that, and he's probably worrying about not socializing, not going to school, and if he's going to be able to get into a university, if he wants to. I have asked him if he wants to go to college. He said he does. Said he wants to go to Clark College, which is it's the junior college. It's right there next to his school. So great. If he doesn't want to apply to out of state schools, that's just fine by me.
Yeah, stay close.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. But I don't want him to give up his aspirations because he feels like he can't bounce back. I mean, Simon is resilient. Simon is not someone to complain about pain or complain about sickness. I don't see this as him succumbing to being sick. I don't see this as a ploy to make himself a sickly person that needs to be taken care of.
Right.
He doesn't have that. I mean, he is asking us to do more things than what we would probably be doing for a kid his age to help him, but I think he's asking because he genuinely needs the help.
Yeah.
He's having a hard time organizing and prioritizing and getting the motivation and the initiative to do things. So I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do.
I don't know either. I'm sitting here, I'm looking at you, and I'm like wishing that I had these brilliant things to say. I don't know what to say. And
Well,
it's we're on a different spectrum with these kids. Like we have Simon just I don't want it, and Zion being like I want it all. And so it's a different dynamic. And with Zion, it I'm glad that she wants to stay close for school. I'm glad about that because she's never been on her own before. She's never like been away from me or been away from her dad and been away from her family, but she has this gumption in her to think I'm going to be just fine when I go. I'm going to be all right. She has that gumption about it and there's going to be this reality where, same thing that happened with her brother when Elisha went to college. He was calling me every single day for everything before he went out into the apartment area with his roommates. He was calling me every day and I was like, I'm going to miss my son so bad. And he was calling me every single day. He called me for little things
about
like
getting a light bulb changed.
about taking his earrings out. He had just got his ears pierced and he called me and he's like, Mom, how do I take these out? And I don't know if they had a screw back or if they just stuck in there. I don't know. But I was like, son, you just pull your pull it, you put your fingers around each side and you just pull it out. So I know that when Zion leaves, there's going to be a whole lot of homesick. There's going to be a whole lot of calling mom. There's
Mhm.
going to be a whole lot of crying. And right now, she doesn't feel like that's going to happen. You know what I mean? She's going around just, I'm going to be just fine. And I'm not saying that she's not. Okay, I believe that she's going to be successful. I believe she's going to have a great time in college. But at the start, I think that there's going to be a lot less oomph there than she imagined there would
She's
be.
ready to cut loose.
She is.
Oh my gosh.
She's ready to go. So, what about the kids? I feel like these kids over here are moving forward. They never actually really talked to me about Zion being sick in the first place. So now it feels like they're not that they've forgotten about it, but I know that they're not talking to their friends. I like what I'm specifically thinking about Savannah right now is what I'm really thinking about. Like, it's because this was happening when she was just a little tiny. She fully knew what was going on, but
Yes.
it's like I don't know.
So Savannah still does talk about when her brother had cancer, and she also sees the isolation and a lot of sleeping and some of the things that have changed Simon's diet. He's lost a lot of weight. You haven't seen him recently,
No, I
but
could tell on his face.
he's lost a lot of weight and he's very thin now. So, I mean, that's good because as we both know, some of the steroidal treatments can cause weight gain. And that did happen with him during his cancer treatment. And now he's definitely like lost weight to where he feels, I think, a little bit better about himself and his body
Mhm.
coming, starting to connect with himself again that way because, they become so,
It's not their body anymore, they're just
yeah,
going through it.
I mean, I think they remove themselves from
Yeah.
that. Um, but Savannah does see those things. She sees the difference. She has a show that she watches called Kate and Alexa,
Mhm.
and it's a show about a little girl who is a high school student who has cancer and her best friend. And they talk about, I mean, everything happens on this show. Like at one point, she's trying to console somebody else who's in the hospital who has cancer, and that child is eating really sour gummies. And she's like laughing about it. And she's like, "Oh, you like those, right? Because you can't really taste anything else. And so, like, right now, you could actually win a contest eating jalapenos, which you could never do before because
Yeah.
when you're going
This is
through
on the show?
yeah, on the show, they're
Uh-huh.
saying, when they're going through the treatment, but just as an example, like those are things that are details that we know. We learned, we remember. Simon started eating hot chips. He never ate hot chips before that, but it's something that does to the taste buds, and the doctor said this as well, that it causes the kids to have a less sense of taste, so they want like stronger flavors. So, I mean, they talk about all kinds of stuff on there. The girl's best friend shaved her head when she lost her hair. So
So is this show specifically about
it's
cancer when
mhm,
she's watching it?
mhm. She watches it every day. Like it's her show.
Oh.
Like when we talk about what the kids are doing and how they manage that or who they have to talk to about it or how they're processing it, that's how Savannah's processing it. She identifies with these teenagers and she loves the show. And it helps her because they they bring up all of these little
That's so
topics.
sweet. That's awesome that she has that because she's only 6 and it's hard. She knows way more than she needed to know about cancer, but
Mhm.
it's hard for her to be able to formulate those words, I'm sure. And so seeing these kids that are the ages of Zion and Simon and going through the different things that they're going through I mean, I think it's amazing that she has that show. Another thing that really gets impacted here, and I don't know how it's been for you, and I'm not going to get too personal, but marriage can be impacted. Relationships like that, your
Mhm.
significant other, it can
Mhm.
be impacted. And, maybe another time you could come on the show and we can talk as much as we can about that because it's personal, but I think that it would help folks to hear some of the things,
Right.
not, without getting into depth because our husbands don't they're not on a podcast, you know what I mean? So
Right.
I think that that's something that I wanted to just put out there is that it's okay to be not okay for in your relationship while you're going through that.
And it
Um
does continue to affect you and your relationship. I mean, there's no getting around that. I mean, I know for us, we're not the same. Nobody in the family will be the same.
no,
And that's just reality.
yeah. I mean, I want to be able to bring that into a conversation
Mhm.
because just like some of the things that we've talked about in past episodes that people aren't talking about, I know people aren't talking about this because I haven't heard anybody say specifics about how it impacted their relationship. And it's every relationship that we have is impacted. Like
Right.
I'm pretty sure that I was a horrible friend when, I mean, not with you because you're my main, but I'm pretty sure that I was not that good of a friend to my friends during that time because I
Mhm.
couldn't. And I didn't want to talk to people that didn't really understand.
Right.
And, I could talk to you and I could talk to Jason and, but there's something that happens in those significant other relationships that people aren't talking about. And I'm just bringing that up because I think it's something that we should.
Right. I agree. And I think one of the reasons that it's hard to talk about is that we probably all have a vision within ourselves of how we would want someone else to care for us when we're emotionally weak, going through trauma. But since none of us has been through this before, we probably haven't shared that vision with anyone, especially our significant others who are trying to help us care for ourselves and our, you know, sensitivities surrounding the trauma that our kids went through and then just what it does to the family. And I know in my case, Mike is like, he sees things in a completely different way than I do. I mean, for him, it's very black and white. He was sick, he's cured.
Hmm.
This in between stuff about getting your energy back or being able to overcome anxiety, he understands it. But does it affect the way he treats me or Simon? Yes. I mean, he's not sensitive to it that way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure that there are a lot of people who have that same experience of for one person in the family or one person in the marriage feels like they are
Separate,
yes,
alone.
separate and yeah, because they're there for their child and they're not thinking about themselves. Then how can you care for somebody when you're not caring for yourself, you know?
Yeah. It's, that's a hard pill to swallow because, you know, our kids will grow up and our kids will move away, but we'll be with our husbands still after the children leave. And I feel like there's some unresolved things
Mhm.
there that I would like to have, not just for me, for him, because I feel like because I was crying so much and I was so, involved in what was going on and all that mattered at that point, I was trying to make other things matter, but all that mattered in that point was me and Zion and how I was going to make Zion be okay, how that was going to go.
Helping her
I
get
don't
better.
think that I was very sensitive to how he was feeling, to be honest,
Mhm.
because I know that I wasn't.
We didn't
And
have time. We didn't have time to
no,
prepare for that, and that's why I say, we know ourselves what we need for someone else to be able to care for us in that situation. We don't wanna be smothered, we don't wanna be we know what the things are that we needed and need still, but
and it was different every day. I mean,
yeah,
it was like a roller coaster.
but nobody had time to prepare for that. That's not
No,
so I mean, it's not something that we ever got to talk about or plan for. So once you're in the middle of it, I think it's just, purely survival. I
Yeah.
mean, trying to help your child get better and then, keep up health and nutrition of the rest of the family
Yeah.
and yeah, we still go through some struggles and it's changed. Again, it's changed the dynamic. I mean, we don't discipline our kids the way we used to. We became ultra permissive when Simon was sick. I wish that we didn't do that.
Mhm.
If I look back, I'd say, oh my gosh, we did not need to get him two brand new electric guitars and a whole bunch of stereo equipment. Like, that's ridiculous. Just because he wanted to self-teach himself guitar.
Yeah.
Now, he plays guitar really well now, and he did self-teach himself, and it's pretty amazing. That's great. But we set this standard for ourselves that we can't keep up with now. And then we feel bad because we didn't do it for the other kids. So now we're extra spoiling the other kids too.
Mhm. And that could bring on arguments.
A lot of
A lot
arguments.
of arguments. So, I'm glad we touched on that a little bit. We could easily go into a whole episode
Yeah.
about that, but I want to be mindful of our husbands and their privacy. So, before we would go into anything deep with that, I would want to ask their permission. You know what I mean? Because it's their lives too. So, the things that we're doing, I appreciate you being on the show with me again today. And what's so hard, especially what's going on with you and Simon and over there, is we don't want anybody to have that. That's why this podcast is so important to me, especially, and you, because we don't want our reality to be somebody else's. We don't want anybody to feel that pain. And this episode, for me in particular, I'm asking you all for answers because we can talk about it and talk about it, but like I said, when something is happening to you, it's like it's happening to me. So we can't really comfort each other or have answers. But this is a call. How do you get back on track with
Mhm,
you now teenager? How
mhm,
how do you move forward? How do you help them move forward? Because like I said, we're on different spectrums. We have one that's super independent and wants to do
mhm.
all the things, and I don't want to say what she wants to do, but she's 18 and she's running with that. And then we have Simon on the other hand that is
Perfectly
lost.
content to be at home.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you all did out there that helped your teenager, your child, get back on track? Because we don't want Simon to keep feeling locked up in his mind alone with those "I have
Mm.
cancer" thoughts. It does a lot of things to your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health. And right now Simon is really struggling, and we want to be able to do what we can to help him.
Well, and it's really helpful just to know also what people have done for coping, but also if there are other people whose I mean, Simon's timeline is starting to be really long as far
Mhm.
as recovery goes. But, the doctor says it can be different for every person. And so we know that. But how different? Where's the range of normal? Like, do you have it takes a year to get back to your old self or to get back to your health,
Your new
new self?
old self.
Yeah, get back to good health and energy levels and activity levels. Or maybe for some people it takes 5 years, but I don't know that. So right now, 2 years, and I don't know the exact date of his
I
cancer free.
I only know because I put it in my notes. I mean, I'm sorry, Zion. I do remember those dates, but specifics of how many years and all that after cancer free, I have it in my notes. So I'm gonna make sure because it's
It's a
real
lot.
important to her. And anniversaries can bring up when is Simon's? It's
That's what
coming
I was
right
just
up.
no, that's what I was just saying. I don't know. I don't know when the
I think
anniversary
it's
date
coming
is.
right up.
It's
And
in July actually because that's after radiation was when we were really sure that there wasn't any more cancer left.
it was summertime.
Uh-huh.
So that's approaching,
Mhm.
and anniversaries are, they're supposed to be happy. But we have some really sad and hard anniversaries that we're going to have to deal with for the rest of our lives. And
Mhm.
we have to have that. Imagine how much more amplified it is for our kids.
Right.
So. Lori, I want to thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me.
Yay,
Let's
thank
hang out
you.
a little bit more after we're done recording if we can. Thank you for coming on here and talking about life after cancer. And
Thank you.
it's always awesome to sit and chat with you. So again, I am Arjorie. Thank you for listening to Why We Do the Work, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.